mystery begins with a question, but only a few begin with a voice that was never meant to be heard. Imagine this. It's nearly midnight. The streets are silent. The wind barely moves. Most lights have already gone out. The world feels as if it's holding its breath. Then, a phone rings. Not once, not twice, 3 times. Someone answers. For exactly 14 seconds. No greeting, no conversation. Only 3 calm words. Don't trust him. The line goes dead. No goodbye, no scream, no sound of panic. Nothing. By sunrise, the caller has disappeared. Not a single neighbor remembers seeing anyone leave. The doors are locked from the inside. The windows remain untouched. No signs of forced entry. No broken furniture. No blood. No struggle. Just silence. And a mystery that refuses to disappear. If you had been the investigator, what would you search first? The phone? The house? The people closest to the missing person? Or would you begin with something everyone else ignored? Keep that question in your mind. Because before this story ends, you'll have enough clues to solve the mystery yourself. But only if you're paying attention. The missing person wasn't famous, not wealthy, not powerful, just someone known for living a predictable life. Every morning followed the same routine. Wake before sunrise, make coffee, read a few pages of a book, leave home at the same time every day, return before evening, no arguments, no enemies anyone could name, no dramatic past. If someone had asked the neighbors to describe this person in one word, they would all have chosen the same answer: ordinary. And sometimes, the most ordinary lives hide the most extraordinary secrets. The investigation officially began the next morning. The house looked almost untouched. A cup of coffee sat on the kitchen table. Cold. Half full. A book remained open. One page folded neatly at the corner. A jacket hung beside the front door. Shoes placed perfectly underneath. Nothing suggested someone planned to leave. Yet, the person was gone. Completely. Without a trace. Investigators searched every room. Bedrooms, closets, attic, basement, even inside walls. Nothing. It was as though someone had simply stopped existing. The phone became the first piece of evidence. Its battery had nearly died. Only one recent call appeared in the records. 11:57 p.m. Duration: 14 seconds. No contact name. Just a number. An ordinary number. But here's where the mystery truly begins. When investigators called that number back, no one answered. Hours later, the number no longer existed. Not disconnected. Not switched off. It simply could not be found. As if it had never belonged to anyone. At first, that seemed impossible. Phone records don't simply erase themselves. Someone must have changed them. But who? And why? The investigators believed the answer would be inside the house, so they searched again. More carefully this time. Every drawer, every shelf, every notebook, every photograph. Then, one detective noticed something unusual. A clock hanging on the living room wall. It had stopped. Exactly. 11:57. The same minute as the phone call. Most people would dismiss it. Old clocks stop all the time. Dead batteries happen. Coincidences happen. The detective almost walked away. Almost. But something felt wrong. The battery inside the clock was brand new. That single detail transformed an ordinary missing person case into something much stranger. If the battery was new, why had the clock stopped? And why at the exact minute of the mysterious call? Coincidence? Or a message? Over the next 3 days, the investigation uncovered nothing else. No fingerprints belonging to strangers. No financial transactions. No hidden debts. No travel plans. No farewell letter. It was as though the missing person had vanished from reality itself. Yet one question refused to leave the investigators' minds. Who said, "Don't trust him"? And who was him? The answer seemed obvious. Find the caller. Solve the mystery. But sometimes, the most obvious path leads nowhere. Because while everyone searched for the unknown caller, no one noticed something sitting in plain sight. A small notebook, covered in dust, hidden beneath a stack of ordinary magazines. Inside, most pages were blank, except one. A single sentence had been written carefully, then scratched out so hard that the paper nearly tore. Investigators couldn't read it. Not yet. But whatever had been written there, someone desperately wanted it forgotten. What nobody realized was that this notebook would eventually expose a lie, not told by a criminal, but by someone who genuinely believed they were telling the truth. And that is where this mystery becomes more than an investigation. It becomes a journey into the strange ways the human mind can distort memory, trust, and reality itself. So before we continue, I want you to become part of this investigation, based only on what you've heard. What is your first theory? Who made the phone call? Why did the clock stop? And why would someone erase a single sentence from an otherwise empty notebook? Write your theory in the comments before we move to the next chapter, because once the next clue appears, you may never look at this case the same way again. A house remembers more than the people who live inside it. The question is, can you recognize what it's trying to tell you? 3 days had passed. The investigation had gone nowhere. No suspects, no ransom, no witnesses, no trace of the missing person. Most investigations begin with too many answers. This one had almost none. Yet every investigator shared the same feeling. The house wasn't empty. It was waiting. The investigation team returned just before sunset, not because they expected new evidence, but because experienced investigators know something unusual. A place can look completely different when the light changes. Morning hides details. Night reveals them. As the last rays of sunlight slipped through the dusty windows, long shadows stretched across the wooden floor. Everything looked ordinary, almost too ordinary. One investigator stood silently in the living room. Instead of searching, they simply watched. The walls, the furniture, the floor. Sometimes, the best way to notice something strange is to stop looking for it. Then, a faint sound. Tick. Silence. Tick. Silence again. Everyone froze. The wall clock still showed 11:57. It had never moved. Its hands hadn't changed. Yet, something inside it was making noise. Not the steady rhythm of a working clock. Just one lonely tick, every few minutes, almost as if it were trying to wake up. The clock was carefully removed from the wall. Inside, the gears were spotless. The battery was still new. Nothing was broken. Nothing was loose. Nothing explained why time had stopped. One investigator quietly whispered, "Sometimes the strangest evidence isn't what happened. It's what shouldn't have happened." The room fell silent again. Meanwhile, another investigator searched the bedroom. Nothing unusual. Books arranged neatly. Clothes folded with precision. A small plant on the windowsill had begun to wilt, as if no one had watered it for days. Then, something caught their attention. A family photograph. At first glance, it looked completely normal. But after a few seconds, something felt wrong. The frame had been opened recently. Tiny scratches marked the metal clips on the back. Someone had removed the photograph, then placed it back exactly where it had been. Why? Inside the frame, there was nothing. No hidden message, no money, no key, just dust. But one corner of the photograph had faded differently than the rest, almost as if another picture had once been tucked behind it. That second photograph was gone. The investigators searched every drawer again. This time, they weren't looking for valuables. They were looking for absences. What was missing? Because sometimes, missing evidence tells a louder story than evidence itself. One shelf held several books. Every title focused on memory, perception, decision-making, trust. The investigators exchanged puzzled glances. Why would someone with such an ordinary life collect books about the human mind? One book had several folded pages, not highlighted, not underlined, simply folded. Inside one chapter, a sentence had been marked with a tiny pencil dot. It read, "The human brain often fills gaps with confidence rather than accuracy." No one thought much of it. At least, not yet. As darkness settled outside, the team decided to examine the security camera from across the street. The camera wasn't pointed directly at the house. Only part of the entrance appeared in the corner of the frame. Hours of footage rolled by. Nothing. Then, 11:54 p.m., a figure appeared, wearing a hood, walking calmly toward the house. Not running, not hiding, simply walking. 3 minutes later, the porch light turned on, exactly at 11:57 p.m., the same moment as the mysterious phone call. The hooded figure disappeared into the darkness beyond the camera's view. The investigators waited. 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour. No one came back. The footage ended before sunrise. No one ever appeared leaving the house. The room grew quiet. One investigator finally asked the question everyone had been avoiding. What if the person who entered never intended to leave? No one answered, because every possible explanation sounded impossible. The next morning, a local resident came forward voluntarily. "I remembered something," they said. The investigators leaned forward. "I heard someone laughing that night." Laughing? Not shouting, not arguing. Laughing. A calm, almost friendly laugh. Just before midnight. That statement changed everything, because fear has a certain sound. Anger has a certain sound. But laughter belongs to people who believe everything is under control. Who was laughing? The missing person? The mysterious visitor? Or someone else entirely? Before leaving the house, one investigator noticed something almost invisible. Near the front door, a thin line of dust had been disturbed. Not by shoes, something smaller, something dragged across the floor. Only a few centimeters. The trail stopped beneath a small wooden cabinet. The cabinet was moved. Behind it, nothing. No hidden door, no secret compartment. Only a single metal button, old, scratched. Unlike anything else in the house, no one could explain where it had come from, so it was sealed as evidence. At the time, it seemed completely unimportant. Months later, that tiny button would become the piece that connected every clue. Now it's your turn to investigate. Let's review the clues. A clock stopped at 11:57, but still makes an occasional tick. A photograph was removed from its frame. Books about memory and perception filled the shelves. A hooded figure entered the house, but was never seen leaving. Someone laughed just before midnight. A mysterious metal button was found behind a cabinet. These clues don't point to one answer. They point to several. And that's exactly what makes this case so dangerous. Because the wrong theory can hide the right one. In the next chapter, we'll meet 4 witnesses. Each one tells a completely different version of what happened that night. Only one of them is close to the truth. The terrifying part? None of them are intentionally lying. People don't always lie because they want to deceive you. Sometimes they lie because their own memories have already deceived them. 4 days had passed since the disappearance. The investigation had reached a dead end. No fingerprints. No DNA. No footprints leading away from the house. Only questions. The team decided to stop searching for physical evidence. Instead, they searched for memories. 4 people had been near the house that night. None of them knew each other well. None had a clear motive. but each claimed to have seen something important. The investigators separated them into different rooms. No one was allowed to hear another person's story. What happened next confused everyone. Witness 1, the night walker. The first witness was someone who often took long walks after sunset. Calm, observant, confident. Without hesitation, they said, "I saw someone leave the house around midnight. They were carrying a small bag. They looked nervous and kept looking behind them." The description was detailed. The clothing, the height, even the way the person walked. It sounded believable. Until investigators checked the security footage. No one had been seen leaving. How could someone remember such vivid details about an event that never appeared on camera? Witness 2, the window light. The second witness lived farther away. They admitted they hadn't seen anyone, but they clearly remembered one thing. The lights inside the house kept turning on and off 3 times, 3 flashes, exactly as they described. The investigators became excited. Maybe it was a signal. Maybe someone inside was asking for help. But when electrical experts examined the house, they found no evidence of a power failure, no damaged wiring, no timer, nothing. Another memory, with no physical proof. Witness 3, the visitor. The third witness hesitated before speaking. Their hands trembled slightly. "I remember hearing 2 people talking outside. One voice sounded calm. The other sounded frightened." What were they saying? The investigators asked. The witness closed their eyes, trying to remember, then quietly replied, "I don't know. I can hear their voices in my memory, but I can't remember a single word." That answer unsettled everyone. How could someone clearly remember voices, yet not remember what was said? Witness 4, the sound that never stopped. The final witness gave the shortest statement, only 1 sentence. There was music playing. Music? No one else had mentioned music. What kind? I don't know. Where did it come from? I don't know. Are you certain? The witness nodded. It's the only thing I'm certain about. 4 witnesses, 4 different stories. None matched the evidence. At first, investigators assumed someone was lying. But after hours of questioning, something strange became clear. Their heart rate stayed steady. Their emotions remained consistent. Every psychological test suggested the same conclusion. Each witness genuinely believed their own story. That realization changed the investigation forever. Because if no one was intentionally lying, then why were all their memories different? One investigator walked back into the empty house, not to search, to think. Their eyes stopped on the bookshelf again. One title stood out, a worn book about memory. The same page was folded. The same sentence waited quietly. Memory is not a recording of the past. It is a reconstruction, influenced every time we remember it. The investigator read the line again. Then again. A chill ran through the room. What if the witnesses weren't describing what happened? What if they were describing what their minds had created? The team reviewed every interview. This time, they ignored the conclusions. They focused only on the smallest details. One witness remembered a bag. Another remembered flashing lights. Another remembered voices. Another remembered music. Different memories. But one thing connected all 4. 11:57 p.m. Every witness was absolutely certain about the time. Yet none of them had looked at a clock. How did they all know? That question led investigators back to the broken wall clock. Still frozen. Still pointing to 11:57. Still making a faint tick every few minutes. The sound echoed through the silent house, almost like a heartbeat refusing to stop. As the clock was examined under brighter light, someone noticed tiny scratches around its back panel. Fresh scratches, carefully made. Not by age, not by accident. Someone had opened the clock recently. Again. This time, they dismantled every piece, gear by gear, spring by spring. Finally, something slid onto the table. A tiny folded strip of paper, so small it had been hidden inside the clock's hollow frame. No one spoke. The paper was unfolded carefully. Only 4 words had been written. Memory can be planted. The room fell silent. No signature, no date, no explanation. Just 4 words. Suddenly, the investigation wasn't just about a disappearance anymore. It became a question about reality itself. If memories could be manipulated, could witnesses ever be trusted? Could investigators trust themselves? And what if the missing person had known this long before anyone else? Before we continue, look at the evidence like an investigator. Ask yourself, why would someone hide a message inside a clock? Why did every witness remember the same time, even without checking it? And who wanted everyone to believe a version of events that may never have happened? Hold on to your theory. Because in the next chapter, the investigators uncover the one clue everyone touched, but nobody truly saw. That single overlooked detail will begin to unravel the entire mystery. The most dangerous clue is not the one that's hidden. It's the one everyone sees and no one questions. By the end of the first week, the investigation board was covered with photographs, phone records, handwritten notes, maps, witness statements, evidence bags. Red strings connected one clue to another. From a distance, it looked like progress. But the closer investigators looked, the less everything made sense. Every clue pointed in a different direction. Almost as if someone had carefully designed the mystery to fall apart the moment anyone tried to solve it. The lead investigator made an unusual decision. No new interviews, no new searches, no new theories. Instead, every member of the team received one simple instruction. Pretend you know nothing. Start from the beginning. Touch every piece of evidence again. Read every note again. Listen to every recording again. Because sometimes, the answer isn't hiding in new evidence. It's hiding inside old evidence you've stopped seeing. Hours passed. Nothing changed. The coffee turned cold. The room grew quiet. Frustration slowly replaced confidence. Then, one young investigator reached for the evidence box, not looking for anything specific, just organizing. Inside were dozens of ordinary objects: a house key, the broken clock, a notebook, the mysterious metal button, the coffee cup, a folded receipt, a pen. Nothing unusual, or so everyone believed. The investigator picked up the coffee cup. Everyone else ignored it. After all, it had already been tested. No unknown fingerprints. No poison. No hidden message. Nothing. It was officially labeled. No investigative value. The investigator turned the cup slowly. One complete rotation. Then another. Something felt wrong. Not dramatic. Not obvious. Just wrong. The handle. It faced the opposite direction. Most people naturally place a cup so the handle points toward their dominant hand. It's automatic. A habit repeated thousands of times. But this cup had been placed awkwardly, uncomfortably, almost deliberately. The investigator asked a simple question. Who moved the cup? Silence. No one knew. Every officer assumed someone else had touched it. Every forensic technician assumed it had already been photographed exactly as found. Then the photographs were checked. The first image, handle facing left. The second image, still left. The third, left again. No one had moved it. It had been found that way. The missing person was known to be right-handed. Friends confirmed it. Neighbors confirmed it. Old photographs confirmed it. Yet the final cup of coffee had been prepared, as if by someone left-handed. The room became completely silent. That tiny detail changed everything. For the first time, investigators had evidence suggesting someone else had been inside the house before the disappearance. Not because of fingerprints. Not because of DNA. but because of habit. Human beings can fake words, they can fake emotions, they can even fake handwriting. But habits are much harder to fake, especially the ones we never realize we have. Excitement spread through the investigation team. At last, a real breakthrough, or so they thought. Then forensic analysis delivered another surprise. There were no fingerprints on the cup. None. Not even the missing person's. The surface had been cleaned perfectly. Yet, a small ring of dried coffee remained at the bottom. Someone had carefully removed every print, but forgot about the coffee itself. Why clean the cup? If the disappearance was voluntary, why erase fingerprints? Unless someone wanted investigators to ask the wrong questions. That evening, the team returned to the house again. This time, not searching for evidence, searching for habits. They noticed something strange almost immediately. Every chair in the dining room faced slightly inward, except one. One chair pointed toward the hallway. It looked accidental. But after measuring the room, they realized the angle was exact, as if someone always sat there, watching the hallway, waiting for someone to arrive or leave. Inside the hallway, the old wooden floor creaked with every step, except one. A single floorboard made no sound at all. The investigators stopped. Every other board complained loudly. This one stayed silent. They carefully lifted it. No secret tunnel, no hidden room, only a shallow space beneath. Inside, a small envelope, covered in dust, sealed, untouched. The envelope contained only one photograph. No writing, no names, just a picture. At first glance, it showed an ordinary room. Nothing unusual. A table, a chair, a lamp. But after several minutes, someone noticed the mirror. The reflection showed the room from another angle. And in that reflection, someone was standing behind the photographer, a blurred silhouette, too distorted to identify. No face, no features, just a human shape. Yet no one had noticed that figure when the photograph was first examined, because the eye naturally focuses on the center, not the reflection. The investigators enlarged the image again and again. Still no face, but one detail became clear. The silhouette was wearing a jacket, with one button missing. The room fell silent. Everyone slowly turned toward the evidence bag. Inside, the scratched metal button found behind the cabinet. It matched the jacket perfectly. For the first time, two separate clues connected. The mysterious button had belonged to the unknown visitor. But one question became even more terrifying. If the visitor accidentally lost a button, why wasn't there any struggle? Why no broken furniture? Why no signs of fear? Unless the visitor had been invited inside. Suddenly, the investigation shifted. The unknown figure was no longer just a suspect. They were someone the missing person trusted enough to welcome into their home. And then, the team remembered the phone call. Don't trust him. What if that warning came too late? Before you decide who the visitor is, think carefully. Every clue you've seen so far may still be misleading you. Because in this story, the truth doesn't hide behind what people say. It hides behind what they unconsciously do. And in the next chapter, the investigators discover something even more unsettling. The biggest lie in the entire case was never spoken aloud. It existed inside someone's own mind. Not every lie is spoken. Some lies are created by the mind itself, and once you believe them, they become impossible to see. By the 9th day, the investigation had changed. No longer was the team searching for a missing person. They were searching for the truth hidden inside human memory. The message found inside the broken clock echoed through every discussion. Memory can be planted. At first, it sounded impossible, like something from fiction. But the lead investigator refused to dismiss it. Instead of asking, "Who is lying?" They asked a very different question. What if no one is lying? The room fell silent. The team reopened every witness interview, not to catch contradictions, but to study behavior. Every pause, every blink, every moment of hesitation. One pattern emerged. Every witness became uncertain whenever they described what they had seen. But strangely, they became extremely confident when describing what they had felt. I felt someone was watching me. I felt something terrible was about to happen. I felt the house wasn't empty. Feelings remained vivid. Details changed. That difference mattered, because emotions often survive, even when memories don't. To test a theory, the investigators conducted a simple experiment. Each witness was invited back separately. This time, no questions about the disappearance. Instead, they were shown 10 ordinary photographs: a chair, a road, a lamp, a bicycle, a clock. Nothing unusual. After a short break, they were shown the same photographs again, but one image had changed. A small red umbrella had been digitally added beside the chair. Every witness confidently pointed at it. Yes, I remember seeing that before, but it had never been there. The investigators weren't testing eyesight. They were testing certainty, and certainty could be manipulated. The lead investigator quietly said, "The human brain hates empty spaces. When information is missing, it fills the gaps with whatever seems to make the most sense." That sentence changed the direction of the case. What if every witness had unknowingly filled in missing pieces of that night? Not because someone instructed them to, but because that's simply how memory works. Meanwhile, the forensic team made another discovery: the mysterious phone call, 14 seconds long. It had been analyzed dozens of times. Everyone focused on the voice. No one listened to the silence. An audio specialist slowed the recording dramatically. Background noise began to emerge, a ticking sound. Not surprising. There had been a broken clock. But beneath the ticking, something else. A faint rhythm. 3 soft knocks. Knock, knock, knock. Always the same distance apart, almost mechanical, almost intentional. The investigators searched the house again. Every wall, every window, every pipe, every door. Then, standing in the hallway, one investigator accidentally leaned against the old wooden wall. Knock. The sound matched. Exactly. The wall itself wasn't hollow, but the heating pipes behind it carried sound throughout the house. Someone standing in another room could create those 3 knocks without ever being seen. The phone call hadn't captured the visitor. It had captured the house itself. Another clue suddenly made sense: the laughter. One witness remembered hearing laughter. Another remembered voices. Another remembered music. What if they hadn't heard separate events? What if sound had traveled through the walls, changing direction, echoing differently, depending on where each witness stood? The investigators recreated the conditions. One person spoke in the kitchen. Another listened from outside. The voice became distorted. Words disappeared. Laughter echoed. Footsteps sounded like whispers. The house itself had altered reality. Yet one mystery remained. Who had hidden the message inside the clock? And why? The handwriting was compared with every note found in the house. No match. Then someone remembered the scratched-out sentence inside the dusty notebook. Using special lighting, the erased words slowly became visible. Not completely, just enough to read fragments. If I forget, don't believe. My own. The rest was gone forever. The investigators stared at the page. If I forget, don't believe. My own. My own what? Memory? Eyes? Mind? The missing words refused to reveal themselves. That night, the lead investigator couldn't sleep. Every clue circled back to the same terrifying possibility. What if the missing person already knew something was wrong? Not with the house, not with the visitor, but with their own memory. What if the notebook wasn't a diary? It was a warning, written to themselves. The next morning brought the biggest surprise yet. A package arrived at the investigation office. No return address, no fingerprints. Inside, only one item, a small voice recorder. Old, dust-covered. Its battery was almost dead. A label had been attached. 3 handwritten words. Play this alone. No one knew who had sent it. No one knew when it had been recorded. The investigators gathered around. The room became silent. The lead investigator pressed the play button. Static filled the speaker. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. Then, a calm voice whispered, "If you're hearing this, you're investigating the wrong person." The recording ended. Nothing else. No name. No explanation. Just one sentence. And suddenly, every suspect on the investigation board became questionable again. So now, ask yourself, if every witness remembered something different, if the house distorted sound, if memories could be incomplete, and if the missing person may have been leaving clues for the future, then who is really controlling this story? The visitor? The missing person? Or someone we've never even considered? Because in the next chapter, the investigators stop guessing. They rebuild every single minute of that night. And for the first time, the impossible timeline begins to make sense. Truth doesn't disappear. It hides between the seconds we fail to notice. By the 12th day, the investigation had become something entirely different. The team was no longer chasing suspects. They were chasing time. Every clue had one thing in common. Every witness, every piece of evidence, every mysterious object, somehow pointed back to a single moment. 11:57 p.m. 3 numbers. 1 minute. 1 mystery. The lead investigator stood before the evidence board. Without saying a word, they removed every photograph, every red string, every handwritten theory. Months of work disappeared into a cardboard box. The room was stunned. Someone finally asked, "Why are you taking everything down?" The investigator answered calmly, "Because we've been trying to solve the mystery from the end. It's time to start from the beginning." A giant timeline was placed across the wall. Not hours, not days, seconds. Every second from 11:45 p.m. to 12:05 a.m. was marked. Every known event was placed exactly where it belonged. The coffee, the phone call, the ticking clock, the hooded visitor, the laughter, the 3 knocks, the missing notebook page, everything. For the first time, the case looked less like chaos and more like a puzzle. At first, nothing stood out. Then one investigator frowned. "Wait!" Everyone turned. "There's a gap! Exactly 3 minutes. No witness remembered anything. No camera recorded anything. No phone activity. No sounds. No movement. 3 complete minutes, as if time itself had vanished." That shouldn't happen. Human memory is imperfect. But when multiple people forget the exact same period of time, something unusual deserves attention. The investigators recreated the timeline again. This time, using actors. One person played the missing resident. Another played the mysterious visitor. Others recreated the witnesses' positions. Every sound, every movement, every light, repeated exactly. Then, something extraordinary happened. During the reenactment, the actor playing the visitor stopped unexpectedly. "Something feels wrong," they said. "What? This hallway? It makes me feel like I've walked through it before." Everyone laughed. The actor had never visited the house before, yet they insisted. "I know it sounds strange, but I knew the clock would be on that wall before I even saw it." Silence filled the room. Coincidence? Perhaps. Or perhaps the house itself encouraged certain expectations. The investigators refused to jump to conclusions. Instead, they kept watching. The reenactment continued. The actor sat at the kitchen table, reached for the coffee cup, paused, then instinctively turned the handle to the left. Exactly like the original evidence. The room froze. No one had told the actor about the handle. No one had mentioned it. Why did you do that? The actor looked confused. I don't know. It just felt natural. That answer disturbed everyone, because habits don't belong only to individuals. Sometimes, objects themselves influence behavior. The position of a chair, the height of a table, the direction of a light. Tiny environmental details can quietly shape human decisions, without anyone realizing it. The investigation had been blaming people. Perhaps it should have been studying the environment. Inspired by this idea, the team scanned the entire house using advanced 3D mapping. They weren't searching for hidden rooms. They were measuring space itself, wall thickness, ceiling height, window angles, airflow. Nothing unusual. Until the computer reconstructed the living room, one measurement refused to fit. The room appeared 40 centimeters shorter than the building's exterior dimensions. 40 centimeters. Not enough for a secret room, but enough for something hidden inside the wall. Carefully, workers removed part of the old wooden paneling. Behind it, there was no hidden passage, no safe, no treasure, only an old maintenance compartment, unused for years. Inside, a dusty metal box, locked, no key. The box was opened. Everyone leaned closer. Inside, they expected evidence. Instead, they found dozens of cassette tapes, each carefully labeled, not with dates, with times. 11:10, 11:22, 11:41, 11:57, 12:03. Every tape represented a moment, but none explained why. The oldest tape was inserted into a player, static. Then a familiar voice, calm, measured. The missing person's voice. If this recording exists, it means I was right. Everyone looked at each other. The voice continued. If you're listening in order, stop. Start with the tape marked 11:57. The recording clicked off. The investigators obeyed. The tape labeled 11:57 began. Several seconds of silence. Then, the same voice. Only this time, it sounded frightened, not panicked, not screaming, just disappointed. I made the same mistake again. A pause. Then another sentence, one that changed the investigation forever. The visitor isn't the danger. Static filled the room. The tape ended. Every theory collapsed. For days, the investigators had searched for the mysterious visitor. But according to the missing person, the visitor wasn't responsible. Then who was? More importantly, why had the missing person said, I made the same mistake again? Again? Had this happened before? Or had they been expecting it? One investigator quietly reached for another tape, but the lead investigator stopped them. No. If these recordings were meant to be heard in a specific order, we need to understand why. For the first time, the investigation wasn't following evidence. It was following instructions left behind by the missing person. Someone who seemed to know this day would come. Now, imagine you're standing in that room, a locked box. Several mysterious recordings. A message saying the visitor is innocent. Would you trust the recordings? Or would you suspect they were designed to mislead you? Think carefully. Because in the next chapter, the final recordings reveal a truth no one expected. And you'll discover why the title of this story, The Last Call Before Midnight, never meant what you thought it did. Sometimes the truth isn't buried. It stands in front of us every day, waiting for us to stop looking past it. The investigation had reached its 17th day. For the first time, no one in the room believed the visitor was guilty. Not because they had been proven innocent, but because every new clue pointed somewhere else. The missing person had left behind messages, hidden inside a clock, hidden inside a notebook, hidden inside cassette tapes. Each message carried the same silent warning: you're looking in the wrong direction. The remaining cassette tapes were placed carefully on the table. No one spoke. The room felt heavy. The lead investigator picked up the tape marked 11:41 p.m. The recorder clicked. Static. Then, the familiar voice returned. Calm. Controlled. Almost as if it already knew who would one day hear it. If you've reached this recording, then you've already blamed someone. That's what people do. Our minds need a villain. Without one, uncertainty becomes unbearable. The recording ended. No explanation. Only another question. Another tape. 11:22 p.m. The same voice. This time softer. Almost exhausted. I started writing everything down because I stopped trusting my memory. At first, I thought I was simply forgetting small things. Then I began remembering conversations that never happened. Faces appeared in memories of places where I'd always been alone. Another pause. Then, the worst part wasn't forgetting reality. The worst part was believing the false memories were real. Silence. The tape stopped. The investigators looked at one another. Everything suddenly made sense. The books about memory, the hidden notes, the message inside the clock, the erased notebook, the warnings. The missing person wasn't documenting a crime. They were documenting their own mind. But one question remained. If the visitor wasn't dangerous, then why disappear? The final unopened tape rested alone. Its label simply read, "Before midnight." The room became silent. The investigator pressed play. For several seconds, nothing. Then, a deep breath. The voice sounded different, more emotional, more human. If you're listening to this, then I couldn't stop it. Another breath. No one is following me. No one is hiding inside this house. No one is trying to erase me. The investigators stared at the recorder, completely still. The voice continued. I believed those things because fear can convince the mind that coincidence is a pattern. One strange event became two. Two became five. Eventually, every ordinary moment looked like evidence. The room felt colder, not because of ghosts, not because of danger, but because everyone recognized something deeply human. How easily the mind searches for patterns, how quickly it creates stories, how confidently it believes them. The lead investigator slowly walked toward the evidence board, one by one. They removed the photographs, the hooded visitor, the coffee cup, the button, the broken clock, not because they were unimportant, but because none of them meant what everyone thought. The visitor? A close friend invited over for an ordinary conversation. The missing button? Lost days earlier while helping repair a garden fence. The laughter? Neighbors celebrating a birthday several houses away. The music? A passing delivery vehicle with its radio playing. The three knocks? Old heating pipes expanding as the temperature changed. Piece by piece, the mystery collapsed. Not into nothing, into reality. Only one mystery survived. The phone call. The 14-second call. Who made it? The investigators requested one final analysis. Not of the words, of the voice itself. Advanced software compared every recording. The results shocked everyone. The mysterious caller and the missing person were the same individual. The room fell silent. The famous words, "Don't trust him," had never been directed at another person. The warning was meant for the future, for the future version of themselves. The him was me, or rather, the person they feared they were becoming. Suddenly, everything connected. The notebooks, the recordings, the messages, The hidden clues. None were attempts to expose a criminal. They were desperate attempts to hold onto reality, to leave breadcrumbs for a future self who might no longer know what was true. The investigation hadn't been chasing another person. It had been chasing a fractured perception. But one impossible question still remained. If every clue now had an explanation, then where did the missing person go? The investigation had solved the mystery of the evidence, not the disappearance. And that answer waited inside one final place investigators had never searched, not because it was hidden, but because no one imagined it could matter. So now, before we reach the final chapter, ask yourself one last question. If you knew your own memories could no longer be trusted, what message would you leave for your future self? Would you believe it? Or would your mind convince you that even your own warning was a lie? Because in our final chapter, you'll discover what really happened after midnight, why the disappearance was carefully planned, and why the last phone call was never a cry for help. It was a goodbye. Every investigation ends with an answer, but sometimes the answer isn't who committed the crime. It's understanding that there was never a crime to begin with. The investigation had entered its 23rd day. Every clue had been re-examined. Every witness had been interviewed again. Every room had been searched. The mysterious visitor had been identified. The recordings had been decoded. The notebook had been reconstructed. The clock had surrendered its secret. Yet one question still echoed through every hallway of the investigation office. Where did the missing person go? The lead investigator stood alone in the empty house one final time. Not searching, just listening. The silence felt different now. It no longer sounded frightening. It sounded honest. For weeks, this house had been treated like it was hiding something. But houses don't create mysteries. People do. And sometimes, they create them without realizing it. The investigator slowly walked through every room. The kitchen, the hallway, the bedroom. Nothing had changed. Until they stopped in front of the bookshelf. The books about memory were still there. One title slipped slightly forward as if it had been pulled out many times. Behind it, something white. A folded envelope. It had never been found before because the shelf itself had shifted slightly over time. Inside the envelope, there was no confession, no map, only a handwritten letter. It began with 7 simple words. If you've reached this page, thank you. The handwriting matched the notebook. The room fell completely silent. The letter continued. I know what this looks like. If you're reading this, then people believe I've disappeared. But I'm not running from someone else. I'm running from becoming someone I no longer recognize. The investigator took a slow breath. Every person in the room leaned closer. The letter explained everything. Months before the disappearance, the writer had begun experiencing false memories. Nothing dramatic at first. Small things. Remembering conversations that never happened. Misplacing objects and becoming convinced they had been stolen. Believing strangers had familiar faces. The fear wasn't the memory itself. The fear was never knowing which memories were real. So they began leaving themselves clues, notes, recordings, hidden messages. Not because someone was hunting them, because they feared their own mind would one day betray them. Then came the most heartbreaking paragraph. If I stay, I'll keep searching for enemies that don't exist. I'll begin accusing people who only tried to help. Before that day comes, I choose to leave. No dramatic escape. No secret organization. No hidden killer. Only a deeply human decision. The investigators finally understood. The disappearance wasn't spontaneous. It had been planned quietly, over many months. Every clue left behind had one purpose, not to solve a crime, but to prevent innocent people from being blamed. The mysterious visitor? A trusted friend who had come to say goodbye. The phone call? made moments after the friend left. The final message wasn't directed toward another person. It was directed toward the future. Don't trust him. Him wasn't the visitor. It wasn't an enemy. It wasn't a stranger. It was the fearful version of the writer, who might someday believe lies created by their own mind. The mysterious visitor? A trusted friend who had come to say goodbye. The phone call? Made moments after the friend left. The final message wasn't directed toward another person. It was directed toward the future. Don't trust him. Him wasn't the visitor. It wasn't an enemy. It wasn't a stranger. It was the fearful version of the writer, who might someday believe lies created by their own mind. The investigators searched one final location, not because they expected to find the missing person, because the letter contained one final sentence. You'll know where I went if you stop asking where. At first, it made no sense. Then one investigator smiled. For weeks, everyone had asked, where did they go? No one had asked, why? That single change transformed the entire case. The investigation officially reached its conclusion, not with an arrest, not with a confession, but with understanding. The case file was closed. Its final line read, "No evidence of foul play. The disappearance appears to have been voluntary." Months passed. The house was eventually sold. The clock was repaired. It finally moved again. For the first time, its hands passed 11:57 p.m. Time continued, just as life always does. But before leaving the house forever, the lead investigator quietly placed the letter back behind the bookshelf, exactly where it had been found. Another investigator asked, "Why leave it here?" The answer came almost as a whisper. Because someday, someone else might need the reminder. So, what was this story really about? Was it about a disappearance? A mysterious phone call? A hidden visitor? A broken clock frozen at 11:57? Yes, but only on the surface. Beneath the mystery. This was a story about something every human being carries, our minds. We like to believe memory works like a camera, recording every detail perfectly. But it doesn't. Memory is a storyteller. Each time we remember something, our brain quietly rewrites it, sometimes only a little. Sometimes, enough to change an entire life. We search for patterns. We connect unrelated events. We become certain of things that never happened. Not because we're weak, because we're human. So before this story ends, ask yourself one final question. How many memories from your own life are completely accurate? And how many are simply the stories you've told yourself over and over again? Maybe the greatest mystery isn't hidden inside abandoned houses, or old recordings, or unsolved investigations. Maybe the greatest mystery has always been the human mind.